Welcome to the IPX True North podcast, where we connect people, processes, and tools.
Hello, and welcome back to the IPX True North podcast. My name is Brandy Taylor, and I'm super excited for the guest we have lined up for you today. We want to talk to you about how you can take the next steps into utilizing AI within your businesses to make your operations more efficient and effective in any discipline of your business, including CM2. Our guest today is Dr. Avishkar Misra, known to most as Avi. Hello, Avi.
Hey, Brandy, how you doing?
Doing great. Avi, let me just tell you a little bit about Avi. So Avi is an AI scientist, technologist, and entrepreneur for over 2 decades of experience at the forefront of artificial intelligence. Avi has led AI initiatives at companies like Amazon, Oracle, Teradata, and TrackPhone, working on everything from doubling the accuracy of recommendations to the tech behind Amazon's Go's cashier-less stores. He holds a PhD in AI applied to medical image analysis and is now the founder of Berrijam, where he's focused on making AI accessible, explainable, and useful for organizations of all kinds. Avi, it is a great pleasure to have you on the podcast. Thank you so much and welcome.
My pleasure. Lovely to be here.
Excellent. So I know I did a bit of an intro for you. Are there any other details before we get started that you'd like to provide our listeners about yourself or your background?
Sure. I mean, the main thing I should highlight, I do have a manageable caffeine addiction, so you might see me reaching for my coffee and my espresso time to time. Other than that, I've been in the area of AI and machine learning for quite a while, and way before AI suddenly was very, very exciting for everybody because it met the new threshold of capabilities. And so I've seen the journey all along the way from research and inventing things to actually building products, that services that launch and help operations. And the services that I've built are used by millions of people every single day without even realizing that they exist. And that's where the beauty of AI should be. It should be somewhere hidden away as a support mechanism without it taking all the limelight and attention, and making sure that the people who are doing their jobs or creating things or imagining the new future can do that effortlessly.
All right. Excellent. So, I know Berrijam is doing some pretty fun things in the AI space. And, but inquiring minds really want to know, just tell us a little bit about that spark. Like, what led you to the creation of Berrijam?
Sure. So, as I said, I've been in the space for a while. And one thing I noticed when I was working with a lot of the Fortune 500 companies looking to adopt AI, data science, or better data-driven decision-making is that there's a lot of discrepancy between the companies who understand it and can leverage it versus companies that don't even know how to get started, right? So, there are always these new shiny tools that come into the market, but without a cohesive strategy, it really made it very, very difficult for organizations to leverage it. So you'll see massive gaps between the companies who are at the forefront pinnacles, companies like Amazon's and Oracle and Microsoft and Google, versus companies who are trying to compete with in the space very, very rapidly and just trying to catch up. And so we saw it both as a risk for the broader economy. You want to make sure you diversify the concentration of that technology and the skill set, so there's more competition, but also an opportunity for us to come in and help. How do you help organization figure out and chart their course by making AI much, much more accessible, much, much more easy to understand and adopt, and so that they can realize its value in their day-to-day?
Yes, value is what it's all about. And, you talk about the things that you're doing to help businesses achieve that value. Tell us a little bit more about Berrijam and what services that you offer.
Yeah, so Berrijam started about a few years ago, about 2.5 years now. And we started with the mission of making AI very simple, accessible, and also affordable for a lot of small and medium-sized businesses, right? So the mission is very clear. We very much focus around helping organizations understand, adopt, and excel with AI. So basically, we have 3 main product offerings. So the first thing we do is we help companies figure out your strategy. Without a good, cohesive strategy, you are not going to be very successful, or you're going to flounder along the way and in some cases just give up because you're not seeing the results that you should be seeing the results. So that's very important. We help organizations figure out what's the right strategy for them, not just, hey, I came across this use case in some website, or I saw this YouTube video and now I can just copy paste it for my company or my team. That's great for inspiration, but often means a disconnect between what I need versus what a vendor is trying to sell me. So we really focus first on the strategy piece. The second piece we work on is we do a lot of custom development work. So we're working right now with a neurology clinic, helping the workflow of doctors and streamline and potentially save them 2 to 3 hours per day, freeing up their time to seeing more patients, but also improve the quality of the care they deliver to their patients. Again, very, very customized, specialized for them. And the third pillar of our service is our own AI system, which is focused on analytical AI. We call it Berrijam AI. So I'm sure people are familiar with ChatGPT and other large language models where you can ask it questions and it can do stuff for you. They're really great for text-based engagement. They're good for synthesizing articles and understanding them and dissecting them. But when it comes to analyzing data, structured data like tables, it's a very risky proposition to go down using LLMs. So we built our own AI system, which is grounded in much more statistically sound systems and algorithms that are defensible. So, you don't want to bet the company's decisions and strategy on what an LLM might have hallucinated. But what you want to be able to do is ground that into statistics and machine learning methods that have actually been proven to be successful over the last 20, 30 years, especially at companies, large companies like Amazon's and Microsoft's and other places. This software is very, very specialized, focused on helping people going from data to actionable insights and doing it, factor order of magnitude faster than conventional methods.
I love it. So there's a few key things there that you said that I really resonate with, and with the work that we do at IPX as well, is one, it's all about making sure your data is meaningful, your data is actionable, you have the insights to actually make robust decisions and do what you need to do with your data. This is key. So many people, we have so much data these days, and we're not using it properly or not even using it at all. So I think it's really key to make sure that we're thinking about it from that perspective, as well as, we know that organizations and leaders everywhere, they want AI, they want to stay on top of the curve. This is what people say, we need to have this, but it's not just about implementing something that they think it just exists out here in cyberspace. It's really about thinking about what pain points you have, what problems are you trying to solve, and think about it from a business process perspective of, how do we make what we do more efficient, more effective, more accurate? So I love when you think about it like that, because it's really good project management principles, right? Of the proper planning on the front side, so you have the right expected outcomes on the backside.
Indeed. And look, AI is not it's not an answer for every problem. And also AI is not just one AI. There's last 75 years of research in the field of AI. So it's very, very complex, very diverse. And what you need to do is, we've got to get past the initial knee-jerk reaction of, oh, everyone's doing AI. Let's bring it in and let's just copy paste and let's do that. No, you've got to start with, what does your team need? What does your organization need? Be very, very specific about the specific capabilities. And that's one of the places where we focus a lot of effort on helping organizations, start from where their pain point is and then work backwards towards figuring out, oh, these are the capabilities of AI that I need. And then you have the conversation around, okay, what is the right type of tool, framework, technology partner that is relevant? So it's very important to start with a strategy. If you don't have a good strategy, you're likely to be one of the statistics of 80 to 90% of projects that are going to fail in AI are never going to see the results that we expect.
Yep. It's requirements lead, tools follow.
Indeed. And having that sort of understanding of what that organization's cultural framework needs to be in place, right? How do you need to think about the space? It's very, very dynamic, very evolving. I know it's a lot of attention in the news, but the fundamentals of running a good business have not shifted.
Yeah.
Right? The fundamentals of teamwork and collaboration have not shifted. The fundamentals of the creative process and engineering rigor that goes into developing things have not changed. So we've always liked to ground it into good, sound foundations and then use these as tools to go further. That's why we work with, medical researchers. We've done some work with Michigan Medicine where we've looked at analyzing the clinical trial data. So Dr. Tapo had some data that he'd run through some clinical trials, and we were able to use Berrijam AI to do that 60 to 100 times faster because we designed that specifically for that particular analytics. You can't just use ChatGPT to go and say, oh, analyze this Excel file for me. So there's different types of, it has different uses.
Yeah. So, to your points, let's demystify AI just a little bit for a minute for our listeners. And so, Dr. Avi, so you have a PhD in artificial intelligence and you've built some AI products, but many of us are not in AI, right? We're in engineering or we're in supporting functions or manufacturing, et cetera. So I guess I would like you for you to just break things down a little bit for us. So from your perspective, what is AI?
Mm-hmm. So the way we like to frame AI is a set of tools, techniques, and frameworks or algorithms, whatever it is, that allows for intelligent decision making. And now that intelligent decision making can be very simple or it could be very complex. So for example, you have a sensor in the garden that's monitoring the moisture content of the soil and then making a decision based on weather forecast to decide whether to turn on the sprinklers or not. If you think about it, it's a very narrow, specific domain of that particular system. But it is an artificially intelligent decision-making system. It's not a human involved in it. So that's an example. Meanwhile, you have more complex systems, right? Figuring out, well, what's the next movie we should watch, right? That might look at signals of all your previous watches, movies that you've liked, rated, what's in the market, what's everyone watching, all of that combined could be considering lots of different signals, and it's very narrowly targeted. So the key element is intelligent decision making. And the value that AI can bring in, it can super scale that beyond human capabilities. So, AI can enable human-like intelligence and behaviors or decision making for very narrow, specific problem sets, but do it at immense scale and immense speed. So you can imagine considering millions of decisions and data points and personalizing the experience for every single customer who visits your website or every customer who walks into the door of your store, right? Those are very concrete examples of where you can't assign a human to do that kind of work. So it's very much about set of tools. It's not simple program that you can download and run. It's not one single algorithm. It's not the latest model that Google or Meta or OpenAI put out. It's a collection of tools. And so these collections of tools can be used in different areas, from robotics to automating manufacturing to doing quality assurance tests. And you can think about doing recommendations and also personalization, but there's so many different fields that come up. It's very easy to get lost in there. And that's why we've actually built this framework called the Berrijam AI 5C framework. We focus on bringing that complexity down into the core 5 capabilities that AI can help us with. We do very detailed workshops on this, but very quickly, the first capability is finding things for us. So if you do Google search as an example of using the AI's find capabilities, document search capabilities. Then there's the make capability. If you tell Midjourney to create an artwork of a particular style, that's an example of making. You can use it to synthesize documents or write emails or prepare or even create new variations of a mechanical design that you want. Then there's also connect. Connect allows you to find the connections between different measurements and outcomes. And so if you can understand the relationships within the data, then you can make prediction, which is the 4th kind of capability of AI, to predict about an unknown future or unknown state. And then, of course, there is the 5th one, which is to optimize. How do you consider all those signals and pieces of information and figure out, if not the optimal, a good enough solution for that complex, constrained satisfaction sort of space? So if you think about AI in those 5 terms, like broadly, that's a really good foundational place to begin when you want to go down the pathway of AI, because otherwise you're going to get lost in the sea of 75 years of research, academic, and commercial work.
So maybe a bit of a philosophical question for you. So can AI truly exhibit creativity Or is it simply mimicking human ideas at a mass scale?
Very good question, right? By the way, I'm not an expert who'll be able to answer it definitively because no one actually knows the answer to this right now. Because the question is, are we humans doing the same thing? We are
Yeah,
products of our experiences. Imagine certain artists who go to certain schools and they embody a certain style of creativity in the art and the music they create. It's because it is what was taught through their experiences with the teacher. Of course, there is innovation and creativity that comes afterwards, right? That they're embellishing and creating something new. So, in some ways, if you look at it purely from an output perspective, they're mimicking the kind of creativity humans do, but at a humongous scale, right? So, I know that would scare a lot of us because the question then becomes more philosophical. Well, what is it unique to be human, right? What is it about us?
right.
The answer is we don't know yet, and we have to find out. And this is the process. We are in a cusp of a massive economic, social, and cultural evolution thanks to AI leaps in the recent years. And it's opened some very, very important questions about how should societies operate? What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to create? What does it mean to engage? How does that reconfigure things? Now, don't panic. That's not required tomorrow. We're going to have a little bit of a journey that we're going to go through. But collectively, it's important for us to be very open and transparent and not close our eyes to those possibilities and questions.
Yes, agreed. Dive in. Don't be left behind. We need to understand. All right.
Yeah.
So, I know most of our listeners are aware or have used of ChatGPT, and you mentioned that already. Where does ChatGPT fit within Berrijam's framework?
Ah, good question. So ChatGPT, just like any other AI tool or product, exhibits multiple capabilities. So remember, the Berrijam AI 5C framework is about kind of capabilities that an AI can demonstrate or give us that we can leverage. So ChatGPT has two broad capabilities. One is the find one. If you give it a document and say, hey, scan through this document, find me places in that document where this part is mentioned, or this phrase is mentioned, or this description is explained, that's what it can do. It can go and find that. So like imagine, and a practical example is, you've got documents and documents everywhere, and you want to track down where a particular part number is mentioned in those documents, and then be able to go and understand the context in which it's described in. And it's not just a simple string matching, it's to understand the context around it. That's an example of the fine capabilities. And that's what like large language models like ChatGPT, Gemini from Google, Llama from Meta, Claude from Anthropic, they all do these kind of things, the find capability. But they also do the make capability, which makes them even more powerful, right? Because what they are able to do is synthesize new ideas in a particular frame. You can ask ChatGPT to explain the complex world of astrophysics as a little poem or a haiku, right? That's an example of generating. But it's not just text that you can generate. So, and a lot of companies, by the way, they're using this to generate documents, proposals, pitches, presentations. Now, the challenge is going to be how do you get that right, right? So how do you make sure that it's generating the right content, it's accurate, it's consistent, it's aligned with your speaking style, your writing style. So back to your question, what is ChatGPT exhibiting? It's exhibiting the find and the make capabilities.
Understood. So let's envision. Let's talk a little bit about maybe what the future looks like. I think we're all thinking about this. Like, what does this mean? And we know AI is transforming our jobs, businesses across the globe. So, how do you expect that we might continue to see this impact, or how it might show up in our individual lives? What do you anticipate that we will see?
It's already happening, and it has been happening for the last 20 or 30 years, by the way. If you've been online and you've seen an ad for a product, and so I was at Amazon, I built the ad targeting platform where we would use the data on your browsing purchasing history to predict what are the kind of things you would be interested in so you can show them relevant ad. Google does it, Meta does it. That's AI driven, connect the dots and make prediction capabilities, right? You are doing that. So you're already living that. It's been very transparent for you. In terms of what we're seeing more and more these days is a new kind of capabilities that are being unlocked. with it. So if you think about what ChatGPT is doing, it's transforming the way people are producing content, how they're generating videos, images, artworks, creating websites, creating documents, synthesizing multiple pieces of information into creating a sort of summarized text and so forth. So there's all sorts of ways that people are using it, and they're going to need to use more. And this is going to transform the way businesses operate. And the way, if you look at it, healthcare, doctors, we're working with a neurologist who's actually looking at ways to improve their patient outcome by leveraging AI and streamlining the workflow, right? It's a very, very sensitive, secure area. We've got to protect the patient data. It's a place where people feel most uncertain about, can AI play a role? But that's where an AI is playing a role. It's playing a supportive role. It's playing an assistant role. It's not eliminating the doctor. It's making the doctor more capable. And that sort of general trend is going to apply everywhere. Everyone's going to find AI components and capabilities to enhance particular parts of their daily workflows that basically supercharges them.
Yeah. And so I know some of us seem a little afraid, right, that it's going to replace our jobs or, something of that nature. People have concern. It is reshaping the job market and like in ways that you're discussing. Should people be worried or should they be excited?
It is definitely going to change and have an impact on our society. Yeah, there are going to be some jobs that are going to be impacted and people are going to lose them, and some jobs are going to be created as a result of that. But I want to think a little bit about the way I look at it this way is like we now have a capability to create movies, if you think about it, using AI, right? An AI can help someone write a script. They can then create and generate videos out of it. So, one argument would be, hey, you don't need artists anymore to make movies. But in reality, if you think about the way the current system of movie making is set up, 99.999% of great ideas never make it to the screen because the cost, the effort, the people, the budgets required to take an idea and get it onto the screen is a barrier for most of these ideas. So there's a massive graveyard of ideas that never saw the light of day. And now we might see an opportunity because we've lowered the barrier and the cost of getting those ideas to the screen, more of those ideas manifest. So in some ways, there's going to be a complementary sort of a result of this, right? You're going to see ideas that could never have been imagined because we didn't have the time, we didn't have the budget, we didn't have the people make their way into society. You might see the work that we do in terms of research and development. Like we've been working with medical researchers doing genetic research and applying AI for that. There's a fantastic area there where they're using AlphaFold from Google to actually imagine new protein structures and then test those more deliberately to figure out, are they stable for clinical healthcare outcomes? Same thing could be done for manufacturing process, designing. If you think about designing a new frames and structures for particular vehicles that are much lighter but stronger at the same time, that would have taken years to do, or some ideas never been enhanced, but now they can be. So every domain is going to see an opportunity. Of course, jobs are going to shift. If you're not going to be using AI in the next 10 years to enhance and deliver and make your own work more exciting and fun, then chances are you are going to be impacted with layoffs. And it's not going to be life as usual as it used to be. It's going to be life transformed with new capabilities.
Yeah, I agree. So what I hear you saying is it's up to the individual to see this as an opportunity to make their own skill set, their creativity, or their expertise more efficient, more effective. It opens up the realm of possibility to allow people to shine in their skill set. So it's just figuring out what are the right ways to utilize it for that end result.
Absolutely. And look, people are inherently very creative. They have the skill set to synthesize different ideas, work with people across different groups, and they use their imagination to conceive of something and then get it over the line. Because an AI can be a fantastic tool to help them do that, right? It's not just individuals, it's organizations as well, by the way. So, right, you've got to think about if you're a leader in an organization, what kind of organization am I creating? Am I cultivating? Right? Because there is a lot of economic pressures in organization. There's, from look at the conditions that are happening in the world around the pressure on capital and investment availability and so forth. You're being asked as a leader to do more with less. And if you want to get to that sort of that world where you have to compete, everyone's doing it, by the way, right? And there's a fantastic BCG study out there which showed that there are companies who are actually leveraging AI to do more with less, and they're seeing 1.5 and 1.6x improvements in their bottom lines, revenues, satisfactions, et cetera, et cetera. So it's individuals, companies, organizations all have to think about how do they leverage this new capability.
Yes, and to think about it from a quantitative perspective, like you're saying, are there ways we can make measurable improvements so that way we can do more and justify more?
And then change the quality of your experience, right? Rather than doing the mundane elements of it, how do you change it to you're enjoying the kind of work you do more and more? So, for example, in Berrijam, we actually use a lot of AI internally to critique our own work. We use AI to give it feedback and say, okay, I've written this code. Help me make it better. How do we enhance it? So there's ways to not get caught out in the mundane and focus more on the creative engagements for ourselves.
Improve the output of the work we're already doing, as well as do more of the value-added work that we were hired to do instead of minutia or wasting more time or spending time on something that may not be as value-add.
Indeed. I mean, if you look at just look at most engineering companies and manufacturing companies, we hire amazingly talented, experienced engineers. And then most of the time they're chasing around updating documents. They're not creating stuff.
Yes.
Right? They're going from one meeting to the other. They're figuring out which document has what. There was a company in Australia, they're an electrical company, and they get a lot of requests for connections. And so they put out, it was interesting to see how much of their electrical engineers, time is spent just responding to these requests rather than creating and doing the high value stuff that they need done. Yeah. And so those are examples every organization has. I'm sure your listeners can think of at least 3 examples in their own organization where, oh man, I wish I didn't have to do this, but we have to do this. And I wish with an AI could help me either do it faster or just circumvent this.
Yes, we hear that a lot on the engineering side as well, with the organizations we work with, where they're spending too much time on administrative activities, and we need them to be focused more on design activities. So yes, that is a common pain point. So, we're talking a lot about the skill sets and thinking about the future. What advice do you have for individuals, moving into an AI-driven economy or even more of an AI-driven economy? What skills should we be trying to think ahead and acquire and achieve and implement in our own jobs to be better, to adapt?
Good question. And there's so much that's happening and things are changing so much. It's very, very difficult to be confident in picking one pathway and say, hey, this is a tool, this is the capability. And I think what we want to be very circumspect about is knowing what is the right pathway, what's the right strategy, even for individuals. And so step number 1 is understand what AI means. Doesn't mean you're going and writing code. Doesn't mean you understand going and building your own AI model and stuff. I would encourage them to think a little bit about more of the strategy side of it. Like if you think about the frameworks that we're doing at Berrijam with the AI 5C framework, that's designed specifically to help people contextualize and ground AI in a deeper and clearer understanding. So they can be very more deliberate about where they want to focus their efforts on. That's number 1. Number 2, and a shameless plug here, they should do the AI Readiness Workshop, because that's a place where they get to learn about the fundamentals of AI and the leadership challenges of how to bring in AI so that it's successfully adopted and within the organization, not resisted and an elephant in the room that never gets adopted and used. So that's and then the other part we do with the AI Readiness Workshop is actually help you with the tools to figure out how to build the right business value cases with AI, right? How should you think about it? How do you design the organization culture? How do you design the strategy? How do you understand what you need so that you can then be very deliberate about what to ask when you're engaging with others, who might be AI experts in those fields? Right. So you want to be in a situation where you're asking the right questions. Our problem is most people don't even know what the right questions are to begin with. So
Right.
those things are very, very important.
So you mentioned the workshops that you do. And as you know, this is why we're here, is AI is a big topic in the IPX community. So we at IPX, we wanted to bring in Berrijam as a trusted solution in this space, and you, Dr. Avi, as our trusted expert in this space to support our community. So we are excited to now be hosting a series of these Kickstart workshops with you so our community can begin to understand how they can use AI effectively within their businesses and their jobs. What are the next steps? How do I speak about this intelligently? How do I think about how to scope this properly and start to figure out what are the next steps and just educate people and make them feel comfortable being able to engage in these kind of conversations within their businesses and with their leadership. So I would love for you just to tell us a little bit more about the workshop and what can participants expect to do and learn?
Absolutely. And very, very excited to partner with IPX and bringing AI readiness to this community because I think there's a lot of opportunity here and it's going to have a transformational effect in every audience. The key element of the workshops is, well, firstly, it's over 2 days. It's about 3.5 to 4 hours where we dive deep into understanding the fundamentals of it. Don't worry, no math is involved, no code was written. You will not be asked to write in Python or C. It's a very much a leadership-centered, strategic thinker sort of a workshop. So if you are a leader, decision maker, or you aspire to be one in the evolving world of AI space, making sure understanding that space is very important. So this is for you. We break down some of the myths around it. We go through some use cases. We talk about the different AI capabilities. We also give you a little bit of a homework. You get to do a little bit of planning on figuring out what are the problems that are suitable for this within your day-to-day or your organization. And then we help you build the right business case, how to think about building a right business case for this and evaluate yourself whether this is a worthwhile pursuit of your time and energy or not. Because there's no point going down a very complex AI adoption program with things that don't matter. We recently did these workshops with a large precision agricultural company out of New Zealand where we got their executives in the room of about 20 people were in the room. And this is after the online training. We actually did a separate session where they went in and they worked out their company's pain points, opportunities, built the roadmap around it. And there were 30 items on that roadmap that they are now figuring out what to do with in terms of getting funding, spinning up teams, bringing partners to execute all of that. Now, they can't do any of that stuff without going through these kind of deeper understanding and making sure everyone aligns on what is valuable and what's the value of doing A before C and B before C. So those are the elements that the AI workshop that we're offering with IPX and through the IPX community is around helping you understand AI, make sure you understand how to frame the capabilities you need, and then start building the very, very important business case around for you to convince your leadership and your teams to execute.
Excellent. I'm super excited to be doing these workshops with you, Avi. And, so like Avi said, these are offered once a month here. They're a 2-day workshop. It's offered May through September of this year at this point. The workshops are formatted in the 2 half-day sessions. They're scheduled to be as convenient as possible in the latter half of your day. We encourage you to reach out to us at IPX with any questions that you may have, or Avi directly as well. That would be absolutely okay. So just let us know if there's anything that we can do to give you the information you need to go back and discuss this topic and this training within your organizations. And we hope that we hear from you guys. And we really appreciate Dr. Avishkar Misra for spending time with us today. Thank you so much for your time, and take care. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much for having me. My pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in today. Don't forget to subscribe and review the show. And for more information on IPX, visit ipxhq.com.